Okay, second last lesson, lesson 3 of Year 6 English, and again I keep saying Unit 2 when it's Unit 1. Yay, okay. So we're continuing on looking at Morris Gleitzman's Mission Impossible and for this story, so please make sure you've got your PowerPoint version open of that story. And I don't think you need any videos for no, you do. There is one video, so you will need your digital unit open in the background. So pause this video and go and get yourself organised. Have your sheet 3 available from that unit. Open up your digital unit and have the PowerPoint version of the story open. Okay, let's get started. So what are you going to do today? So we look up here and in your unit it says understand how text structure and language features work together to build a short narrative and how they influence the readers. So in other words, we're going to look at two things. So how the author of a short story puts their ideas together, that's the text structure. So how they choose what goes into different parts of the story. And even right down to sentence types that's involved with sentence structure. And finally, how authors use words to influence how the reader feels about a character, the setting, and I've covered it up. And the plot. Okay, there we go. So different words or different language features are used to influence you when you're reading the story to make you feel a certain way about the character, perhaps the setting they're in, and the events that are happening in the story. So in this lesson you'll be looking at the main character in the story Mission Impossible, which of course is Jake, and how does Morris Gleitzman help the reader to learn about the main character? Does he describe him in a particular way? Does he tell us about his action and his thoughts? Okay, let's find out. Now you may remember these from last year when you were doing a narrative unit. There was two terms, and one was protagonist and the other one was antagonist. And a protagonist means basically the main character or the hero in a story. An antagonist is the character who acts in opposition to that person. So they would be the antagonist, so the nasty person of the story, perhaps the person who is against our main character. So if you were going to think in terms of I don't know, Batman, you could have Batman as being the protagonist and the antagonist would be someone like the Joker. Okay, you could probably think about that in video games as well. You would know that there is a main character who is usually you, and then the antagonists are the people who are against you, or the main character you're trying to defeat. Alright, so let's answer the following questions about the main characters in Mission Impossible. Who is the protagonist in the story? So who's our main character? Who's our hero? So right now in your brains I should be hearing, Jake, Jake, it's Jake. Okay, yep, you're right. Okay, it's Jake. So Jake is the protagonist in our story. Why would you call him a hero? Okay, why would you call this character a hero? Now this is a personal opinion. I can give you my personal opinion. It may differ to yours. But I call him a hero because how he is trying to solve problems to be able to help his parents out the best he can. Okay, a hero is probably not a word I would give to him, but definitely caring son, somebody who cares for his family. Okay, but he is the main character, so you can write what your own opinion is in here about why you think he's a hero. Perhaps you think he's a hero because he saved the kids' holidays by actually letting them have fun. Okay, it's up to you. Write that in there in that box under B. And finally, why does this character behave the way he does? In other words, what's his motivation? Now, I don't remember Dad promising Jake any money. He was just asking him to do the right thing by him. Help us out, we haven't had much sleep. So this is saying something about Jake. He didn't stick his hand out and say, yeah, I'll do it for $20. Alright? So this is saying something about Jake and his character. So his motivation is actually basically love and caring and responsibility. So here is love for his family and the fact that he understands that they were kept up most of the night. And so it comes back to that theme of caring, okay, and responsibility, and perhaps his perseverance. Okay, he always sticks to it and never gives up no matter what. So in nature is perseverance, caring, and responsibility. Alright. To help us understand Jake as a character, Morris Gleisman uses verb groups to describe his actions and to show what's happening to him or what is happening in the story. He can use expressive verbs such as leaped out of the chair instead of got out of the chair. It makes a big impact just by changing that one word, got out of the chair, leaped out of the chair. You can almost see the movement in your mind. So authors use words to almost create a mini movie in your brain by using descriptive words in the form of verb groups describing actions and noun groups describing people, places and things. Alright, so if we have a look down here at these verb groups down here, number 2, read the sentences in the table below. Think about the verb or verb group in each sentence. In each row there are 2 versions of a sentence that could mean the same thing. Tick which one has the most expressive verb to you. Okay, is it Jake was stunned or Jake was surprised? Hey, this one's a bit of a tricky one because I think stunned and surprised are actually both quite good verbs there. So, in this case, depending on what happened, perhaps, of course it depends on what happened, but I think stunned might be a good way to describe the actions of somebody who was quite shocked by something. Okay, surprised is a completely different reaction. So, in this case, maybe we can use stunned because perhaps Jake was a bit shocked by how the family was acting. Okay, so probably stunned. Okay, the next one. He asked the group. He begged the group. Well, in this case, it's very obvious. Okay, asked, yeah, but the word begged, okay, that gives us a very good indication of how he asked. Okay, please, please. Okay, so you can almost see in your brain, just by changing that word from ask to beg, how Jake is acting in your mind. Okay, Jake gulped. Jake swallowed. Well, Jake swallowed is almost just describing when he's eating. Okay, but when you gulp, okay, like that. Alright, you know, okay, I'm not too sure about this, or something's going to happen, I don't know what to do. Okay, so gulped gives a very descriptive verb group, or verb in this case, to show the actions of Jake and what he might be feeling at the time. So go ahead and look at your story and see if you can find a couple more examples. It says 3, but you can go and find a couple of some more verbs or verb groups that tell you about Jake's actions in the story. Now, I had mine open on my other screen and I found ones like Jack hurried, okay, outside, rather than just Jack moved outside. Jake moved outside. So that's one example, and that one is at the bottom of page 3. Okay, we also have one on page 8, where he, as in Jake, silently begged the parents to control themselves. So here's a verb group here. He silently begged. Okay, we've got an adverb there, which we'll learn about in a moment. The parents to control themselves. Okay, so we've actually got a pretty good indication that he's almost pleading in his mind. You can see it in his eyes that he wants his parents to stop yelling, no! Okay, just by the way that Morris Gleitzman has described Jake's actions there. Alright. Now, as I was mentioning about adverbs before, okay, I should probably tell you. You can go to sheet 3, which I asked you to have open there at the beginning, and it looks like this. You can go and add in those verb groups that you found, those couple of verb groups that you found just then, onto sheet 3. When you've done that, we're moving on to adverbs. Okay. So can you remember what an adverb is? Okay, an adverb modifies the verb in some way. It pretty much tells you, most of the time, how a action is done. Okay, a lot of the time, they end in ly. Okay, so say, for example, if you ran quickly, all right, Jess acted cleverly. So you can hear that ly sound, and a lot of adverbs end in ly. So for Jake, how he moved hurriedly, okay, hurriedly through the door, silently begged, okay, silently. So you have all those words that end in ly are usually adverbs if they come before or after a verb. Find the following adverbs that modify the verbs in Mission Impossible and help to expand and sharpen our ideas about Jake's feelings. So let's look at how Morris Gleitzman does this. A. How did Jake look through the office window at the big sign out the front? Now that's on page 2, so go to page 2 of your story. How did he look through the window at the office, out of the office, to the big sign at the front? Okay, and you can add these to your sheet 3. Did you find the word proudly? Okay. How did Jake stand in the pool enclosure? Going to page 5. How did Jake stand in the pool enclosure? Okay, once you've had a look for it, it'll tell you Jake stood helplessly. Okay, there was nothing he could do. Add that to page 3, to sheet 3. How did Jake beg the parents to control themselves? Now we just talked about this one. Do you remember what we said? He silently begged them. Okay, so it's almost like he was using some kind of mental power. Okay, he silently begged. He was probably using facial expressions and body movements. Okay, the parents to control themselves. You can add those to sheet 3. Okay, so we looked at verbs, how the authors used descriptive verbs and verb groups with more powerful words than just the basics like asked and walked. Okay. Then we looked at adverbs, and adverbs tell us how the verb is performed. So again, it could be silently begged. He stood helplessly. It tells us more about the verb and what's going on. Now, of course, finally, and we're all familiar with these, is noun groups. Now, you can go and view the noun groups video. Okay, mainly it ties in with this story, but it might help you remember what noun groups are. Okay, but they're just basically made up of nouns, so whether it be a person, place, or thing. And it usually has words around it to describe or give a lot more detail about that noun. So it's just like a verb group, except it has a noun in it. Alright, so it's not too hard, but you can go and watch your video on noun groups if you can't remember what they are. So if you look at these 2 boxes below, think about how you can add modifiers to the nouns and noun groups. Okay, the modifiers being more words to tell us something more about the noun. Okay, so an example of a proper noun is Jake, and we know that it's a proper noun because it has a capital letter. So can you add at least one modifier before and another after the word Jake to add more description to this character? I can give you an example of one. Let's just say, going back to our theme, responsible Jake. Oh, the E's gone down there. Responsible Jake. And what made him responsible? Who was just trying to help his parents. Okay, so this tells us more information about Jake, that he is responsible and that he was just trying to help his parents, so he's caring. So adding those 2 parts of this noun group in gives a lot more information about Jake than just the word Jake. Okay. Alright, so you go and think of one too. You can write mine in, and I'd like you to go and think of another one of your own. You can put them on sheet 3, which would look like this over here. Okay. Now to do this, you would probably try and use a descriptive word like an adjective before the word Jake, and then some information that is almost like evidence to your description. So responsibility or responsible, and then this shows why he was responsible. Perhaps you might use funny Jake. Okay, funny Jake, who tried to make the kids laugh and have a good holiday. Okay, you just need to come up with something. Alright, other characters. So provide some modifiers to these nouns. Perhaps Jake's mum and dad. Okay, wonder what we could do for that one. Have a go at that one. Parents. Maybe it was irate parents. Competitive kids who wouldn't leave each other alone or who wouldn't sit still. Alright, so go and put those three into your sheet 3. Pause this video if you need time to do that. Now when we come across characters in stories, we can relate to characters in particular ways, mainly because some of them might have similar traits to us. So we can relate to those characters. Perhaps they're a stressed out character and we feel like that sometimes. Perhaps they're a nervous character or a quiet character, and that's how you are. So you might relate to them. They have those kind of traits. There's other ways or other character traits that you might not relate to, and they're usually the character traits of the antagonist or the person against the main hero of the story. So Morris Gleitzman shows these through clever ways. Okay, he uses repetition, he uses emphasis and exaggeration with nouns and verbs and adverbs. Okay, for you to pick up on the character traits of Jake and other characters in the story. If you look at sheet 4, which looks like this, you'll see there is several words listed about different kind of traits that characters can have. So I'd like you to look through that list and pick out maybe 4 minimum, okay, about 4, that's probably plenty actually, that describe the character of Jake. I don't think adventurous is necessarily one, so I wouldn't be choosing that one. I definitely wouldn't be choosing calm. If I look through, I'm trying to find one that I could. Perhaps hard working. There you go, there's one that I think would describe Jake. Hard working. Perhaps funny. Alright, you go and choose 2 more or 4 of your own to describe the character of Jake and write them into this box in number 8 in lesson 3. Okay. And then you're done. So remember, today we looked at how authors will use verb groups to describe the actions of characters, noun groups to describe the people, places and things, okay, settings, objects. We looked at adverbs and how they add more meaning to the verb to describe how the verb is done. And then we looked at character traits as well. The different ways that authors can write about characters to make us recognise different traits they may have. Are they messy or selfish or scared? Okay. Thanks for coming in. See you next time.